On March 25th of this year, a 400-meter-long container ship got stuck for 6 days in Egypt's Suez Canal. Whilst becoming the butt of countless memes, the Ever Given wreaked havoc on supply chains that were already reeling from the COVID-19 buying boom. The ceaseless movement of goods, resources, and people requires a vast infrastructural network, the importance of which has become acutely apparent within the past year and a half. The operation and management of this network relies on logistics, the science of moving stuff around. Logistics is not something that most of us think about every day, and yet the smooth functioning of our everyday lives is entirely dependent on it. The quality of a country's logistics infrastructure continues to be a major determinant of that country's capacity to mobilize against the pandemic. In order to move ever more stuff around ever more quickly, logistics networks are designed to be ever leaner, which also means that these networks are more fragile and prone to disruption than ever before. A big ship, a skinny passage, and a bout of foul weather can now seriously disrupt global trade and produce immeasurable knock-on effects. Yet this incident barely hints at the attendant social and ecological concerns that come with the continuing increase in logistical speed. Purchase a new yoga mat online, and you may well find it being delivered to your doorstep by tomorrow. Such a phenomenon relies on networks composed of raw materials, ships, trucks, passengers, warehouses, intermodal terminals, containers, ports, dock workers, seafarers, truckers, shelves, pallets, robots, and logistics workers, among countless others. These networks are decidedly spatial, they are multi-scalar, and they extend beyond the city and across the world, thereby producing a condition of planetary urbanization, a notion which we'll unpack throughout the semester. Whilst generally obscured from view, logistics has recently been making news headlines. The studio will take advantage of this recent visibility in order to consider how such networks might be designed otherwise. We will focus on spaces through which goods are transported and spaces in which goods are stored and sorted. This means analysing and designing distribution centres, and to do so we'll draw on the work of architects and theorists dealing with logistics and the spaces of flow. Bunnings, Amazon Australia, and Woolworths. These are the country's top 3 retailers, and each of them have major Victorian distribution centres in the same 1.5 square kilometre of Dandenong South. These retailers are not within the same industry, yet they all rely on comparable distribution practices. Each one impacts the home, each one relies on massive amounts of data and technology, and each one shares an ambition to move things around ever more quickly and efficiently. Each company also uses architecture to alleviate friction and minimize choke points. Putting these companies into conversation with one another means gaining a more holistic understanding of the architecture of logistics and its impact on our city. Students will spend the first half of the semester analysing, mapping, and responding to one of these 3 companies. Once we have an understanding of how these companies operate, how their infrastructure has been designed, and what their shortcomings are, we will then propose and design alternatives. These alternatives will provide Dandenong South and the city beyond with more social, ecological, and considerate forms of distribution, as well as some downright compelling buildings. Your projects will require consideration from the scale of the parcel right up to the scale of the transport network. Instead of the architecture of logistics being something that remains peripheral and opaque, FlowState asks, what if this architecture could be public? This focus on publicness, as well as on systems and networks, is what makes the studio distinctly urban. Each project will pose a challenge to the logic of hyper-efficiency, yet how your project does this and what you privilege instead of efficiency be it collectivity, climate, workers' rights, biodiversity, or otherwise, that is up to you. I'm Andrew Kopilov. I studied here at Monash, as well as at the Royal College of Art. I'm a researcher at the New Centre for Research and Practice, a coordinator at the Melbourne Art Library, teaching associate here at Monash, and I'm also working as a graduate architect. I'm interested in designing social infrastructure, and one time I spent a week on a container ship. Flow State runs on campus Mondays and Thursdays from 2 to 5. Weekly references will familiarize us with concepts related to distribution. So too will guest lectures, and if restrictions allow, site visits. Our first guest lecture will take place on Thursday evening, July 29th. Thanks.